We face the storm, the weight of doubt. The road is long and the path runs out. But there's a fire deep inside that pushes through, no place to hide. Do it messy, I always say. Do it imperfect, but do it anyway. Shining your light day by day with compassion for yourself and others.
Well, hello.
Like
Welcome to episode 4 of Grit, Growth, and Gumption. I am Tinsley English, your host, and I am joined by 4 powerhouses in our industry, and I am going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. Michelle, Laurel, Bobbie, and Kerry, welcome to Grit, Growth, and Gumption.
Thank you, Tinsley. I am Michelle Raue. I am currently the Chief Claim Officer and Transformation Officer for Preferred Mutual Insurance. We are a small regional carrier in the Northeast. I have been doing insurance claims for 30 plus years. Hate to say that. But I'm here because I am just trying to make this world a better place for the people who are following me. So that's my one goal in life, is to leave it better than I found it.
And you have a very strong following. I look forward to your LinkedIn content every day. And you are the biggest cheerleader on LinkedIn too. The days when I post, I'm like, wah, wah, that was not great. Michelle comes through, sweeps in, leaves a comment, gets the conversation started. So thank you for being such a supporter of everyone on LinkedIn.
Well, thank you. I love your content.
Yay. Laurel, another lady in red. Let's go to you.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Laurel Jordan. I am the Insurance TPA Officer and Solutions Lead for Sutherland Global. I've been here about a year, but I've been in the industry almost as long as Michelle, almost 30 years. Started out, my story, I think most of you know it, but started out in the mailroom and have done every operational process from the mailroom to the boardroom. And I think I agree with Michelle. I want to make the world a better place. I want to lift women up. I want to mentor and sponsor women because I know how hard of a climb it was for me. And I just want to help support people to do that as well, because we're all capable of it. And that's really my mission, is lifting and supporting people up.
I love a good mailroom story, or I love I started as a receptionist story. There's just so many stories of people in general that have started in a completely different capacity where they are now in this industry. And that's why I say, there's a very low barrier to entry in our industry. You don't have to have a college degree. There's just so many opportunities to get your foot in the door if you are willing to roll up your sleeves and work hard. So I love that story, Laurel, and I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more about that later on. Bobbie went rogue, but she did wear her power color, which is black.
It's black and red, but today I was in a rocker mode, so I chose black today. Bobbie Shrivastav. I'm a co-founder, CEO of a company called Solvrays. It's a company that this is my 4th company, guys, my 2nd insurtech. And I'm very excited about solving real problems in the insurance landscape when it comes to workflow and how work happens, especially when we look at the future of workforce and the trends. And when we look at the fact that over 74% of the industry is still in legacy, we have to make good momentum, or, I was talking to Michelle earlier that or else it's gonna, the future will not be as bright, right? So my goal is to be that ray of sunshine, hence the name Solvrays. And, I really echo everybody that's went so far in terms of my mission in life and my purpose in life is all about creating ripples. Like, that we gotta create that good momentum so that we can all celebrate, support, and collaborate with each other, especially us women.
And female founder, 4th company. That is super awesome and impressive and inspiring to all the young women, that are out there listening today. So I am thrilled that you're here, Bobbie. Thanks for being a trailblazer. Okay, Kerry, spoiler alert, this is the first time that Kerry and I have ever actually talked. We have messaged for months. So Kerry, welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you. And I'm thrilled to be here. And well, we just have talked through LinkedIn, and this is our first time. I feel like I've known you for years. So that's part of your flavor and your excitement and what you're driving through your grit and gumption theme there. So I'm Kerry Macca. I'm a founder of KM Consulting right now, which is offering leadership fractional sales services to the industry. And I've been part of the insurance industry for 30 years now, started off on the underwriting side of our industry and transitioned halfway through my career into the solution provider side of our industry. And 30 years ago, there weren't this type of conversations going on in the industry. We didn't have the mentors we have today in the industry. It's evolved so much. So like many of the women on this call, just thrilled to be here. Really want to pay it forward to others coming up and rising up in our industry today.
Kerry, thank you so much. And I appreciate you saying that. I'm pretty familiar. I say it in my book, like I'm a Southerner. I'm kind of like a golden retriever. I am going to bound up to you. I will not lick you, but I will get right in your face and I want to know everything about you. And when I moved to the Midwest right after college, it was like everybody stood back and said, whoa, this is a lot. Like this girl is a whole lot. I was super excited about starting my corporate career. And I used to have little soirees, cocktail parties at my loft when new people would join our office. And somebody was at my house one night enjoying a beverage because a new person had started. And they said, why do you always do this? Why do you always have these parties? And I said, because my mother told me to. I'm from the South. That's just what we do. We bring you in, we give you a big old hug, and we want to find out every single thing about you. So if you're joining the show, just get used to this type of conversation because I want to get deep and really dive down into what drives people. So the first thing I just want to throw out to the group, and you can grab it if it resonates with you. I came up with Grit, Growth, and Gumption really on my own. It was a system that kind of developed organically based on the tools that I use to not just survive, but thrive. And not only in the corporate world or business, but in life. So grit is adaptability, resilience, self-discipline. And when I think about growth, I think about empathy, emotional intelligence, learning and growth, learning and development, and then that gumption piece, which is fun. And I see a lot of gumption on this call already today. Strategic career advancement, the superpower of vulnerability. So I say all that to say I had this little tool that I developed, and I show everybody this. It's kind of nerdy, but you know, you guys are all developing like extremely sophisticated technology products to solve world problems. I just really only developed this little Venn diagram, but this little Venn diagram, and I don't know if you can see it, but it is really what helps me navigate life. And that's what I run almost every decision through, this filter. And the days when I'm feeling just like the world's against me or I'm really down, my husband's like, why don't you dial into your resilience? Like you're having a setback. Why don't you make it a comeback? So does anybody want to grab that and say, I've got this tool that I wish I had when I was 30, 25? I'll throw it out there.
I don't know that it's a tool, but I have little positive stickers and sticky notes all around my desk and motivational things to keep me going. And then pictures of my children, my grandchildren, and other things. And, you know, when I'm feeling defeated and I'll look at them, you know, and I mean, there's one right here that says breathe, think positive, you can do this, walk away and rethink. You know, I have all these stickers like everywhere. My husband's like, you're like a teenager. And I'm like, no, I spend over half of my life sitting at this desk. And I feel like I'm here, and when I get in my head or something, or I really love what you just said, make a setback a comeback. I mean, that instantly I was writing it down as you said it. little things like that. Just those are my tools that help me move forward. And, when I get mad and frustrated, if Bobbie doesn't answer her phone, then I typically
Uh-oh.
start reading my, Bobbie's busy. So I get it when she doesn't answer her phone, but, yes, she's my venting space too. But, I look and I try and read these and, and then my calendar is a spiritual motivational calendar. And every month it has different, um, Bible verses that, I'll just read back and think about and try and go back through. And so, I'd say my faith and my positive sticky notes and stickers collection.
Do you have a favorite verse that you go back to sometimes when it just all gets too much?
Oh, there's a lot. I think my biggest favorite verse is, and I'm going to butcher it and I'm not going to say it right, but it boils down to the hope, faith, and love mentality. Love being the greatest of all. And, I try to keep love in everything that I do, even my job. And, that can be hard some days. It can be really hard, when you're having some rough days. But even when I have those rough days, I try to turn it around and be grateful for I have a salary, I have a roof over my head, I'm not struggling. My kids are grown now, but when they were little, sometimes I would question, am I going to have enough money to feed them? So, hope, faith, and love are probably my three biggest principles that I fall back on.
And you know what I'm seeing now, and I'm loving it, is love being acceptable at work, empathy being embraced at work, bringing your whole self to work and actually doing it, not just saying it, but doing it. Empathy was my Achilles heel as an early leader. I just thought everybody needed to do their job, do it like I did it, and left it at that. So I love that you love love, and I love that red represents love. It makes you feel warm, and yeah,
See,
I
I
love
was a
that
different
world.
type of empathy leader. I would get in trouble, and I think it barred my path too, because I've done every operational thing you can imagine, from the mail to paying claims to issuing policies to reinsurance to every bit of it, answering phones. I get in there, when somebody's in, I'm like, well, here, let me help you or let me do it. And my bosses would constantly say, you have to delegate, not do their jobs. And that was the hardest stumbling point for me, because I wanted to help or jump in. If their caseload was too much, well, here, let me take 5 of your claims and I'll pay them for you. And my boss is like, I need you to lead, not do. And I'm like, but, and then, I had kids, so I was always a sucker, I'll say, for somebody had a sick kid or something. You go home, you go do it. I'll take care of this for you. And my boss is like, you have to follow the corporate guidelines. And I'm like, but why? Why can't I be nice? And so I had to learn how to be empathetic, but still be a leader too. So that was a big growing and journey for me, to take my feelings out of it and do my job, but still have empathy with it. So.
Somebody said to me the other day, the best approach to really anything in life, not just work, is a good mixture of head and heart. So you got your logical side, and some of us lean on the logic way more than we do the heart-centered side. But I want people to embrace their heart as leaders. This industry is made up of people with servants' hearts. We want to serve our clients. We want to provide great experience to our clients and our colleagues. So that balance of head and heart, and it might not be a perfect, we know balance is a myth. It might not be perfect equation every day, or the ratio might not be perfectly balanced. But if we can keep that in mind, I think it's a winning combo.
Grit, growth, and gumption. We all need a little something to pick up and see us through when the world comes down on you. Not everyone's made like us. Not everyone's brave enough. They need us to show up with grit, growth, and gumption.
I think it's a winning combo. So Michelle, can I pop off to you real quick?
Yeah.
Tell me about a tool that you use, or any kind of mentality that you use that maybe you wish 25, 35-year-old Michelle would have known.
So I think I'll go back to what Laurel said. I have a little notebook where I've written down scriptures, that I've found in studies and stuff. And it's just, one of those little tiny spiral notebooks. And if I'm feeling really overwhelmed or out of sync, I will just sit down. And my favorite verse is be still, be still and know that I am God. And, you have to sometimes just stop and sit back and go, this is okay. It's not gonna, the world's not gonna explode if I don't solve this problem this minute. Take some time, take a breath, and then move forward. I wanted to jump back to your empathy thing and what Laurel was saying, because I think we have similar paths. We've been in it a long time. We had kids when we were little. And there was literally a time when I was homeless. I had two little girls. We were basically going from friend to friend to live because I was in a really bad personal situation, and nobody at work knew it. And I came to work every day because that was my stable, sound place. And I had people around me who really, we loved each other and we supported each other like a team, and really that was where I felt the best. And I didn't even bring that part of my life with me there, but and they never knew how much they were supporting me. And that taught me such a big lesson about when you're dealing with people in an office, you never know what they're going through in their personal life or outside of that space. And so to bring that empathy with you and to always have and show grace to people to try to understand why something's happening in the workspace has been huge for me. And if I hadn't had that lesson early on in my career when my girls were little, I don't know if I'd be an empathetic and really have that emotional intelligence to be able to run the teams I have.
How did you deal with that at home? Shifting from place to place. I had a single mom too. And I always say, how did you pay the bills? And she said, I'd sit down at the end of the month and I'd have, a stack of bills and a bottle of Chardonnay. And, after 2 or 3 hours, we'd figure it out, whether we had to rob Peter to pay Paul. We'd figure out how to get those bills paid. So how did you were given all at work, and you were physically moving around, but how were you able to show up for your girls?
I mean, it was hard, and luckily the same resilience that I showed at work, I showed with them. And we knew we were in it together. They were little, they didn't understand why we couldn't go home. And they would ask, why can't we go home? And I'm like, we can't right now. It's not going to work. But we would kind of make it fun. It was like an adventure we turned it into. And you have to do what you do, right? And they didn't see me in the middle of the night crying my eyes out, trying to figure out how I was going to do it. But they have grown up, and I always wondered, have I damaged them for life? And they are the grittiest, and my daddy, I'm from the South too. He used to always say, that girl's got gumption. I always, and that's kind of what I raised, is some girls with some grit and some gumption, because they saw the struggles. And I think sometimes we can try to shield our children too much from that, but if they see you go through it, and they saw us come out on the other side and we're fine, and everything worked out. So they just learned, hey, sometimes things are tough, but you can get through it.
I love that. My sister and I are very gritty. We have a lot of gumption. I was one of those really strange kids. I was a latchkey kid. My mom had started her own business. She was an entrepreneur and a trailblazer. But I would come home and I would cook myself stuff. Like, I think one time I was home by myself. I hope child services doesn't get called because of this, but I was at home by myself in 2nd grade, and I decided I was really hungry, and there was a steak in the fridge. I think it was like a little sirloin, but I just fired up the frying pan and put the steak in there. And my mom came home several hours later. I don't know where my sister was, and I don't know if she was supposed to be watching me, but I had fried up the steak and I had eaten the steak and I didn't want dinner. But we learned how to be very, very self-sufficient, and worked at a very, very early age. And in full transparency, my daughter just got her first job at 16. And I tell her, like, you don't realize the difference between your life and my life. And I'm glad I can give her the life that she has. But I wouldn't trade my upbringing for anything. So I hope if I ever sit with your girls, I'd love to talk to them about that, because as crazy as it was, I called my mom one afternoon and said, where am I supposed to go after school? We had a home situation that shifted. And she said that was like a gut-wrenching situation for her. But look, we made it, and we're wiser for it. So Michelle, hats off to you, lady.
Well, thank you, but you got to do what you got to do.
So Kerry, share. What would young Kerry want to know?
Yeah, so the tools that I use is really around scripture as well. And my favorite quote is, "Thou shalt not fear." You know, change is inevitable in life and in our career, and at sometimes it can get really scary. And it doesn't have to be. When you have a community of women or men network that support you, that you can reach out to for that support during those times of change, it's so important and invaluable throughout your journey. And early on, I made the mistake of building that network inside my organization, but I did not have that network outside my organization. So it is really important to build that community both inside and outside.
Do you feel like the power of social media and LinkedIn has helped you grow that community of supporters?
Over the last year, that has been huge for building those supporters. I have had people reach out like yourself. We met through LinkedIn and just connected and started engaging and had a lot of similarities as women leaders in this industry. Also with males on LinkedIn, there's certain connections you make through social media that you probably couldn't make at these conferences.
Do it messy, I always say, do it imperfect, but do it anyway. Shining your light day by day with compassion for yourself and others.
Bobbie, talk to us about what would you, and when I say young, Bobbie, like we're all still young, like young is a mindset. What would 25, 35-year-old Bobbie benefit from hearing today?
Enjoy the journey. Don't get overly stressed out or overly, get in your head as much. Don't live in fear is the big thing. So when I look at my 20s and my career, I've been pretty blessed, right? Like I'm a technologist, had some good humble beginnings. My parents were immigrants, and my dad came a little bit later to the US, but my mom came, and even though I was born here, but when we returned back from India, she did a lot of firsts. So I worked at a very early age. So I grew up in the South, and I was happy that I got great scholarship to go to undergrad, got my IT degree, and started working. But there was this fear concept, right? Like, perfectionism comes a lot in our culture. You have to be perfect. And I think it took me a while to break that out. It actually took me getting my second master's in the last year of that program to say, what the hell am I doing studying for MBA and not enjoying the process of meeting amazing people? What am I doing? Like, why do I want an A so bad? And I think at that point I think I just turned 30. I was like, I'm done. I'm gonna just enjoy. And I got my first C, I was very happy.
Oh, good for you.
But that felt uncomfortable. But honestly, it's now I look at in my fourth venture, right? We're raising money, right? When I was in the situation back in 2017, I was going through a lot, right? Like process, like I've got a family, I've got sauna, but this time I'm doing it so fearlessly. I'm like so confident that everything's going to work out because I've got a great support, great tribe. And I think that's what I would tell the younger self. Everything will be just fine. Just go through it. Don't live in fear. Be confident, show up strongly, solve real problems. You're good.
And the thing that you said about perfection, I've found, especially within the last year, trying a lot of things, the more I let go of perfectionism and just take messy and perfect action, the better the results. And I have more fun. I find a lot of women that I talk to, especially younger women, even older women, they're stuck in this like perfectionism loop, and it's not perfection that the world needs from us. It's this perfectionism that we're expecting of ourselves. And the way that I've learned to push it back or to brush it off is that whatever I'm withholding today, it could be something that somebody else needs immediately. So writing a book, I had never written a book before, but my calling was get it out fast so that you can start serving people. So I would love for somebody to grab this one. When you're developing these technology products, with a book, it's a little bit different. Like, it's my perspective on the world, but when you're developing a technology product that could help innovation, I don't know if necessarily the do it messy, do it imperfect applies 100%. Would anybody just love to vibe on that for a minute?
I'm a firm believer in having an MVP mindset, which is minimum viable product. And it actually teaches you that you don't need to be perfect. And I'll share a quick story. So in my Docsmore days, back in 2015, I had just gotten out this, hey, I got C, now I've had a baby, and now I'm dealt with all of these cards, and I'm going to build a company. My husband and I did. But we learned very fast that we can go to market and with functionality that we can get people to like start reviewing, getting customer validation. And it was a leap of faith, right? Because in your corporate, when you're working on projects, you've got milestones, it's gotta, you gotta test, you gotta go through that effect, right? Whether you're agile or waterfall. But that MVP mindset really allowed that culture of test and learn, which is where if you don't put it out there and if you don't test and learn, how are you going to make improvements? You got to be very agile and flexible. So that's how I've approached every single startup since then. Even like Solvrays, we've got an MVP, but we're in test and learn. We want to show it to people. We want you to see it because we'll hear feedback from the voice of the customer and make it better. That it's got to be that loop. So messy is a good definition for
Good.
that.
I love it. See,
I
it
call
applies
it
to everything.
organized mess, right? Organized chaos.
So Bobbie, who would you say mainstream product wise? What big organization that every listener would kind of identify with? Who does the best at the MVP mentality and listening to that customer voice and tweaking and refining based on end user feedback?
I would say Amazon is like our favorite example. If you look at their journey, and then I would even look at like a Tesla, right? Like think about all the updates that people get in their cars. That's a form of test and learn. But you just have to be very, like that's a vehicle versus
Right.
but at least, like having that good testing rhythm has to be good. But those are two brands that stuck out to me, like major brands that everybody would know.
All right, you're in this technology space. What do you think?
Yeah, I love the MVP example that Bobbie just provided. I think even before that, a lot of the technologists in our space have these great ideas and just go ahead and start developing. And Bobbie mentioned this as well, is solve these complex problems in our industry. So do your research up front. Ask questions, go out to the marketplace, understand the complexity of insurance before you start developing technology for our solution. I've seen way too many companies start the development, bring it to the market, and really truly not understand the problems they're trying to solve in the marketplace. So in addition to that MVP product, find out, what is this industry trying to solve for? What are the complexities with our regulations that wrap around the insurance products our companies, our buyers are trying to sell to? And focus on that before you start developing. Understand the market.
And I want to jump in there too, because I mean, and it's something you and I chit-chatted about back and forth on LinkedIn too, active listening and listening to the people actually doing the work. That's one of the things in all of our product development. You know, somebody up higher gets an idea of, we need to make a claim solution, but they've never paid a claim. They don't understand from A to Z what it takes to go through processing a claim, how many different systems you have to have open, how many different regulations you have to look at, and doing all of that. And so 2 jobs ago, I sat down and said, when I joined the transformation team there, I said, let's bring in the people doing the work and let's listen to them. And, you know, because I had done the work and I knew what it took to pay a claim, and I didn't want it to be just coming from my voice. I wanted them to hear it. And sometimes it takes that active listening to get people to understand the process, to understand you can't just, like Kerry said, you're going out and building a product, but if you don't know the pain points and what that process is and what the highlights are and the lowlights are, how can you build a product that's going to solve the problem? You can't. And so you have to involve the people from all realms, from supervisors to managers to mailroom people to processors to junior processors, even the indexing teams. You know, no matter what process it is in our industry, if you don't talk to people who are doing it day in and day out and ask them what would make it better for you, what's really good for you, you can't build. And so you have to listen actively and be engaged and know what they're talking about.
So I'll pick up on the word that you said, and you hit it perfectly, was engage. If I work in the mailroom, or I am, you know, I've just started here, but I immediately see a red flag or something wrong with our process, do I have a really safe space to share? Say Michelle's my manager. Hey, Michelle, I know that you run claims XYZ. This is the process here. But at my former company, or 2 companies ago, we did it this way, and it was just a slight tweak. Are you open to me sharing some of my ideas with you? I think that psychological safety at every single level, where people feel good about speaking up, it drives innovation and it creates engagement. Because now I just started here and I can go to my family barbecue next week and say, hey, guess what? They asked me how my new job's going. That's what your grandmother does, right? Or your aunt does. Well, I actually just shared a piece of information with Michelle, and now we're exploring tweaking the whole process, like buy in 100% from this girl.
Lead the way, authentic hearts. We stand and say we are the courage. We break the mold with every step. Watch us unfold. Grit, growth, and gumption. We all need a little something to pick up and see us through when the world comes down on you.
It's funny that you say that, because I was just talking to somebody earlier. May have been Bobbie. I've had 2 calls since I don't remember. But we were talking about, you know, how there's so many of us that are leaving the industry, and we've got to get out there and attract new talent into the industry. But when we bring them in, we have to empower them to do the things, right? We can't just bring them in and say, do like we've always done. We have to bring them in and let them bring their ideas and let them bring up those things to say, hey, we could push this paper over here better than we could over here, and that would save us whatever. We've got to start listening to those ideas that they bring in that are different from what we have in place, because they've got a lot of great ideas, and we can't just sit there and think ours are better. And that's one of the things that it'll solve 2 problems. It'll make things more efficient, but it'll also give this younger generation a voice and let them feel like they're really making a difference. Because if they don't feel like they're making a difference, they're not coming here.
It's kind of like when you have family dinner and you let your kids pick the menu, or you let your kids pick the restaurant. It just adds an element of excitement. And I would love if my daughter would actually pick the menu and cook, but we're not there yet. She's not frying up steaks. But I love all of that. Anybody else want to add something about teamwork, inclusion of all ideas? We do have 5 generations in the workforce right now.
And I wanted to throw out this one thing about the whole MVP, and I'm running a transformation project in our company. We're replacing all our core systems. But our biggest mantra is don't let perfect be the enemy of good. You know, we've got a timeline to get this stuff in. We cannot let perfection stop that. And you know, there's a lot of times that good is good enough. And we just have to get there. But back to what Laurel said, it has to do with asking everybody who does the things, what is your input? What are your pain points? What are you seeing that we could make better? And if you do that all the way around, you know, you're going to have a better solution. I tell people all the time that I don't handle claims anymore. I've got a whole bunch of people who work claims every day and do it really well. All I need to do is be the person that can get the crap out of their way, right? I just say my card should say bulldozer driver, because my job is just to get the stuff that keeps them from doing their job more efficiently out of their way. And if you can do that, and they believe that you're there to help them be better at what they do, they're going to work 10 times harder for you.
I love bulldozer driver.
Mm-hmm.
Dozer is your new nickname. Michelle Dozer. Yeah, that's what we're going to call you.
The whole notion, especially when you come from a startup perspective, is how do I sell, and Kerry can vouch for this too. How do I sell to executives? You know what I do? I don't sell to executives. I sell to people that are having problems. And I found that is the best way to get in the ground level, build some advocacy. It may take you longer, but guess what? It's going to be way more fruitful. And now we've got this group of change agents. You know, there was somebody that I spoke with was calling it an army of people. You're building your team, you're building your army, and that's how you can attack it, right? Oftentimes we approach it at, I had a very quick story. I was talking to an innovator. She's got a third-party administrator, a fairly large organization that she's running their transformation, and she had to let somebody know that, hey, we're not going to choose your solution because of X, Y, and Z. And she's the person that's in charge doing the work. And that person went and contacted the CEO. I'm like, you're such an idiot. Why did you do that? Because those things your job is to make sure your people pick the right solution to navigate it. None of this hierarchy stuff works anymore in an organization, especially when you've got a leadership team and your people wanting to choose a solution and they're going to go after it. You can't play that game anymore. And that's the new era that we're coming into, where people are feeling more empowered. It's leaders like what we're seeing in the industry, like the leadership is rising. We've got more diversity, which means we're going to see more collaboration. None of this top down. They're servant leaders, right? Hey, I'm going to do what my team is going to do, kind of like what Michelle described. So that's the one point that I would say is we got to make sure that we're not glamorized by the executives anymore. We got to solve real problems and go listen to the people that you're solving for. Don't chase the executives. Like, you still have to balance, but chase the people that you're going to serve.
I'll go back to the term we used earlier in the dialogue around empathy. Building trust, having empathy. These are real people that have real jobs that need your help solving complex problems. And so, when I started off my sales career, I was moving from the business side as an underwriter over to a solution provider selling systems into the underwriting. I had the empathy. I understood the pain sitting in that chair of what those underwriters were going through with the lack of automation and the multiple solutions they had to get their job done from a day-to-day basis, which built tremendous trust in my ability to understand that problem and build that trust. So it is really a different way of selling. Agree, Bobbie? It's a lot of empathy, and it's really building trust throughout the ecosystem of the users, of the organization you're selling into, not top down anymore.
And I will say, from my perspective as an operations person who did grow up working a desk, I know that I was able to quickly get buy-in from the field level because I had been an account manager. I had been an account executive. So they immediately trusted me because I knew how it was to have 6 renewals piling up, but 3 audits to check. And then, those policies that are 2 months old that you need to review. So I knew the type of priorities. And I'll say that my job every day is to be the voice of the field and to try to eliminate mundane tasks that have to get done. They're mundane, but they have to get done to keep the agency moving along. So let's talk about, I know this Gen Z, like there might be a little battle going on with Gen X and Gen Z right now, because Gen X is put your head down and do what you're told. And I very much prescribe to that throughout my career. And Gen Z is like, no, let's talk about that. I want to challenge you. And is there an AI solution? And my thing is, I think there is an AI solution for a lot of our challenges, but I do say I want to layer the human approach, the human element on top of it.
I have several young mentees that I have, and I would guess they are the Gen Z group you're talking about, and they are so wicked smart. I mean, they bring so much, and I have basically flipped these into reverse mentorships to let them tell me what they think needs to be done, because I really think that they, we can say they're soft or whatever. We think that they didn't get to go home and cook their own steak and had a little more, a little more fluff in life than we did, because they're our kids, and we didn't want them to have to go through the same thing, right? But they bring a lot of really insightful things that we don't think about. And I think that's the whole thing about diversity. You're getting a perspective from everyone, and they have a completely different perspective than I have. And I really value the input we get from them. And that's why I'm so strong about when we say we want to go out and bring these folks into the insurance industry, we can't bring them in and shut them up. We have to bring them in and have them be able to open up and say, have you thought about doing it this way? Because they've seen other ways to do things, and we need to be really, really open to that and have them bring those smart ideas.
I agree 100%, Michelle, because I grew up, I'm a Southerner too. Can't tell, I haven't dropped a y'all, but in the South. And,
drop a y'all.
And Catholic Italian on top of that. So very strict, do as you're
Dynamic.
told. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I went to Catholic school. The nuns still scare me. And as I started evolving, I've got 4 grown children now, and they range from the ages of 25 to 33. And just talking with them and getting their inputs and listening to them. And then the same in the workforce, you've got to, number one, if we're going to attract them, we can't bring them in and say, you're going to have to open 11 systems and use 2 different spreadsheets to calculate to pay this claim. We have to give them the technology, but we also have to listen, because my 10-year-old granddaughter, she can do more on a computer than I can in any time. I'm constantly taking classes to learn stuff, and she'll be like, Grandma, just hit this, hit Control Z, She did it. We went down this weekend to watch a basketball game, and I couldn't figure out their TV. They've got one of these newfangled smart TVs, and I couldn't figure out how to get it to turn on, because the other grandbaby was there, and we wanted to put a movie on for him. And I was like, how do you do this? And how do I get it to go to they've got it banned, with child protection rules on their TV. And I was like, how do I get it to go there? And she was like, Grandma, just here. And I was like, you're so smart. You're a 10-year-old and you can outdo your grandmother on a TV. She was like, well, do you want to play Fortnite, Grandma? And I was like, no, 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 ma'am. I'm not playing with you because you would wipe the floor with me. So, I mean, we have to look at them and we have to listen to them because it may not always be a technology solution, but just because it's the way it's always been done, and that's a common thread in the insurance
Oh,
industry.
yeah.
Well, that's the way we've always done it. You know, it works. We've got it going. Yeah, we could cut some efficiencies here, we could do that, but it puts us at greater risk. We've got to get out of that mentality and we've got to move to, yeah, we've done it this way for 20 years. How can we do it now? And I think with the AI involvement and all that, and, just everybody's risk averse. And, I know last week, I think 20 states dropped new regulations, and we're still trying to wrap our brains around the regulations that will go with AI. But you can't just sit there and wait and watch. You've got to jump in and learn from it. And that's, I think, my biggest thing with every bit of it.
So you say this to your granddaughter, like, I can't believe how smart you are. But guess what? Your grandmother was saying the same thing about you, Laurel and Michelle and Kerry and Bobbie. Your grandmothers were looking at you and saying, back in, this is going to date me. And my grandmother, our TVs used to be gargantuan. And like the clicker was like this huge metal thing, and you could hear it click down, and we only had 13 channels. But I could do the TV and I would do different things. And my grandmother used to marvel at the things my sister and I could do. So you were that same shining light to your grandmother. And now that we're talking about grandmothers, I would love for each of you to kind of make a statement of, you're 80 years old. And there's one thing that, like, this is maybe the last thing you get to say about your career or your legacy. What do you want it to be? Michelle, can I start with you?
Sure. I just want to say I gave back. I mean, I was there. It's funny because I'm older than probably all y'all. And I did not have any women examples in front of me. All of my bosses were men. All of the people around me were men. I didn't have the opportunity to have women mentors. And I just want to be able to be there for those women who are following me, offer that mentorship, be able to, give advice and help them navigate all the things that are uniquely woman. And I want to look back and say, I did that. I helped some people along the way.
I love it.
You want me to go next?
Yeah, go ahead, Laurel.
I'd say, and this is something that, I've been trying to tell myself daily. It's something that I struggle with, and all of you guys know me, so imposter syndrome is a big thing with me, is you are enough and you were enough, and believing in yourself and knowing, I may not be the smartest person in the room, but I don't have to. So never give up on yourself and always believe in yourself first. And then, the same as Michelle, I gave back and I tried to make a difference in this industry.
Amazing. Bobbie?
We've been talking about recently the 2%, which is 2% of VC funding goes to female founders. And let me just preface that we're in year 2025. That 2% was when I started pitching back in 2016, which is
Wow.
a long, about 9 years ago. It's that number hasn't moved. So when I'm 80, I want to be like, what the hell? Like, we're looking back at that 2% and laughing because the world is becoming more, equitable, right? We are not talking about, I want to go on LinkedIn or whatever the new social media is, and we're not talking about inclusivity. We're not talking about this 2% number. We're talking about other types of, things and innovations, because we're at that point in our world where we don't have a gap. We don't have a pay gap. We don't have an investment gap. We're just humans solving real problems and really leading the next generation through. That's the world that I want to see when I'm 80.
I love it. Kerry, what about you?
So my dad's 81 and my mom's 76 and they're still working. So I'm probably still gonna be working at 80. So I don't know if that's a threshold for me, but it really is being an anchor of family and faith, which to me means staying true to my values, which is serving others and helping inspire them, and both personally and professionally.
I love every single one of you. And it was just a magical time spending time with you today. I really appreciate you all joining me on Grit, Growth, and Gumption. And I hope this year, 2025, is a year that you go out and change the world with your impact. And my legacy is that I want every person that I meet, male or female, to realize that they have God-given brilliance within them. And we're only here to help them uncover it. So blessings to each one of you. You're all doing such big things, like definition of gumption. My heart just grew 3 sizes with this episode. So Happy New Year, and thanks for joining us on episode 4 of Grit, Growth, and Gumption.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We face the storm, the weight of doubt. The road is long and the path runs out. But there's a fire deep inside that pushes through, no place to hide. Do it messy, I always say. Do it imperfect, but do it anyway. Shining your light day by day, with compassion for yourself and others. Like Jesus said, loving one another. Grit, growth, and gumption. We all